Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture on front-end development. So today, before we actually jump on to developing certain websites using front-end development, we'll try to scope out what all comes under front-end and what all does not come under front-end, right? So first things, everything that is related to the user interface or the user experience, right? UI means user interface, UX means user experience, that for sure comes under front end. So anything and everything that you view, how the page looks in any particular format, be it laptop, be it mobile, be it some iPad, right? Anything that you view, how the website looks and feels comes under front end development. Okay. So what does not come under front end is most of the dynamicity of data. So to explain this, I will give you a very small example. So let's go over to the example. So if you look at this simple page, right, uh, what all does it constitute? So it basically constitutes a simple profile of a person, right? There is a profile picture, there is the name of the person, there are some details about that person, if you see below it, right? Then you can see that, okay, there are some contact details here. Then there are like, okay, what is the person's LinkedIn and so on and so forth. Similarly, on the right side, you can see that, okay, there are some educational details, work experience, and so on and so forth, right? So if a single person is creating his own portfolio, so as an example, if I am Bharat Khanna and I am creating my own profile like this, which looks like, okay, I educated from this place, this is my work experience, and so on and so forth, then all this data is static in nature. So by that, I mean that it does not change, right? Whoever visits this website, no matter what the person is on the internet, when he opens this website, he'll see exactly this data, right? So because this is static, all this can be stored on front end. Okay. But let's flip this example over and let's say this is actually Programming Pathshala, or for that matter, you can take any other website also like LinkedIn, their own profile page. Now, the difference is that everyone's profile will be different. So as an example, if you go to profile of Bharat Khanna, it would have Bharat Khanna's profile. But let's say if you go to some other person's profile, let's say Vivekanand Vivek's profile, then it will constitute completely different material, right? So here, the look and feel is same, right? So whatever data we are getting, how to represent it on the page, it's exactly the same, whether it's my profile or Vivek's profile. But the actual data that comes here is different, and that data is provided generally by the backend. So whenever there is a dynamic data, that is, it depends upon whose page you are visiting, or whose, let's say let's take an example of Instagram or Facebook. So your feed would look very different from your friend's feed, right? The reason being that it is changed based on your preferences. So again, the data is dynamic. How it looks is the same. If it's a video post, it will look just like that. If it's a image post, it will look just like that, and it will have the same buttons of like, share, bookmark, and all that, right? So look and feel is same. That is front end again, right? How an image post will look. But that data, that actual image that is coming, or number of likes that are coming, or the comments that are coming, they will be coming from the back end, because front end cannot know. Front end is a static thing. Front end cannot know what actually uh, is a comment on this particular post unless it fetches it from a central place called as server. We'll discuss more about client and server in the upcoming video, but the main idea to pick up from here is static data, or data which you think is completely same, uniform throughout, right? It will be the same thing for all the users. That all comes under front end. As soon as there is a piece of data which might change depending upon who is visiting that page, then you need to go to the backend to fetch the correct data. That is almost the general rule of thumb. Okay. Okay. So we got to know that when we talk about front end development, We are basically talking about UI UX, and we're also talking about static data, data that does not change. Okay. And here static does not mean that it is like constant, but it basically means that whoever visits the website will exactly look the same. So if X visits, Y visits, Z visits, whoever visits, the parts that are exactly the same, that we are terming as a static data. Okay. And that all will come under front end. Okay. So now let's also understand what all comes under front end development. So when we are doing front end development, we generally will look forward to three different pathways. First thing that you need to do is you need to have your HTML in place. So what is HTML? HTML essentially shows you all the objects that you want to put on your website, right? So be it certain images, be it certain text, be it certain buttons, forms, links, etc. So all the different objects that you want to place on your website are placed via HTML. Okay. It does not mean that HTML will also define how you place them, right? HTML simply says just put all your content on the page. Then we put a second layer of CSS, which looks after two different things. First one being layout. Layout means how is your page structured? So when we looked at our profile page a few steps back, then okay, there was a left portion with a photo details, then there was a right portion with education, work experience, and so on and so forth, right? So how all the data is laid out, that okay, there will be this part, there will be this part, there will be this part, is defined under the layout part of CSS. We are going to discuss this in a lot more detail, plus other design aspects. Other design aspects means like color of the particular things, padding, margin, all these things we'll discuss a bit later. One more thing, that misconception, a common misconception that people have, that when we are doing CSS, we also look after finding the color combination or beautifying the page, right? That is never the case. So as you looked right now, I shared you a page where exactly it was given what we want to present, right? And that is a role of a designer. Front-end developer versus front-end designer are two different roles. Front-end designer will think about, okay, what will be the color combination, how the page should look. Front-end developer, mostly for this design portion, just needs to copy paste the design of the front-end designer, right? So you can ask him what is the color code of this particular piece, and you can just put it up there directly, right? And we'll see how that happens in the upcoming videos. Last portion, after you have defined all your pages using HTML and CSS, you go for is JS or JavaScript. JavaScript is the like most common one that we use for dynamicity in the website. So what do we mean by dynamic nature of the website? It simply means, like, let's say you click a button. Now what will happen, right? Let's say a new page needs to open. So who will take care of all that? So that all comes under JavaScript. Or as an example, let's say you clicked on edit on your education page. Now a pop-up should show which allows you to edit. Now all this editing part will again come under this JavaScript. So JavaScript is the dynamic portion of the front end, right? Now for this JavaScript, there are some elegant frameworks that are made, like React, which we are going to focus upon in this particular course. So this is the route that we are going to take. We'll start with HTML, followed by CSS, followed by JS. Then we'll move on to elegant framework like React, right? Moving on to the backend. Cool. So let's meet in the next video where we are going to discuss a little bit in detail the HTML portion of the website.